Yo, 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 what is going on, brothers and sisters? A little bit of a boring day in the United States stock market after Friday's hoopla. So let's dig into what's happening with the general indexes and then what to do for tomorrow and the coming week. So first of all, it was a light day. The market barely budged. And to me, it felt like a classic inside day for those of you guys not familiar. An inside day is just when you have like a big ranging day. And then, right, you have like a kind of a narrow range day inside the bigger day, right? And so this was like a classic inside day setup. I thought overall that it was pretty bullish, you know, to kind of just digest some of that and chop around for a second. And a lot of stocks ended up giving inside day setups. So I actually think that that was a pretty bullish overall move for the day. You could see the IWM also down about 0.9%. But once again, you know, just an inside day, right? This is your first day's range. You got a really tight range inside that. I mean, to me, that's about as good of a day as you can get. Like, you want to have a little bit of a rest. You know, if we had gapped up, for example, on the IWM, if we had gapped up today and just had, like, some big stick, we all would have been chasing our tails off, you know, buying way far from the base and all sorts of other stuff. I thought today's action played out perfectly. A nice digestion day to just let things marinate. Can't ask for more than that. And, you know, you can see here on the SPY, same type of deal. You know, we stalled at, you know, the resistance, had just a light day down 0.3%, you know, and you could tell just like even the price action was like just a little bit muted. And that's what you want to see, right? Like on a day like this, like, yeah, we had like a little bit of an end of day fade, but once again, it was so small, right? A couple points, you know, on the same thing on the Qs, like you got a little bit of an end of day fade, but it wasn't really much, right? You know, to finish down at near lows, you know, down 0.2%, like that's nothing. So plan for tomorrow, I think. Look, any type of open we have, the key is if we take out 574, then that's the trigger to be loading up on the tech. Same type of deal. Like, you know, if we start to take out these ranges at 235 on the IWM, like we're going to have ourselves, you know, some real fun. So be patient. You know, we may even shop around for another day. I'm not sure. But I thought today was overall very bullish. So let's get into what we want to trade for tomorrow, because I think the setup is there now. So the setup is there, and I'm there for it. Like, let's go and rip this fucking thing. So couple things here, right? First things first, you know, we have ourselves, dude, I think MP had a nice day on it today, up 7%. By the way, USAR and the other ones were up too. You had a nice orb on this, and, you know, it's a liquid name. It's got perfect range. Let me just say something, like, you know, with the Oklo and, you know, some of these names, it's kind of like $50 to $80 range when you have like a lot of liquidity. Man, those stocks really, really fire off. Like, they're just really good traders compared to like trading like Tesla or something like that. AHR had an awesome PR out today. And if you look here on the daily chart, hold on here. If you look at here on the daily chart, right, you've got yourself really a nice setup. Like, after this move from 50, you know, down to, you know, sub 10, right, you're starting to come out of this beautiful range over here. I mean, that's right. It looks like a hockey stick. That's a nice base breakout right there. The liquidity was there today. It had decent range. You know, this is a fairly low float stock, 26.6 million shares. I think that this is something we can keep trading. And if you're a swing trader, then, you know, let it kind of marinate, maybe retest back down into this and back and fill some of the area. And I think you'll be good. As a day trader, you know, I think we can just kind of keep hammering up on this thing. RKLB had a nice day. I want to keep this on. It did have an end of day fade, which is fine. But the range on this has been fantastic, 30 million shares a day in volume. It's coming out of this kind of wedgie McGee, I'd call this. And, you know, it broke through the top of the Bollinger Band today, so it fade off and close. But I think this is going to be in play. A little bit of a rest. We had a good run on this. We bought the opening dip on this, and, you know, I held it for a little bit into the, you know, some sold at 69.50, some sold in a spike. But, you know, not a huge ranging day. I'd almost consider this like a makeshift inside day. It was still a little bit of a rest day. This stock has a tiny spread at the open, so you got to be careful how you level into it. But it's a really, really good trader. Hey, for those of you guys that like some of these little guys, man, pot stocks look like they could be ready to do a little Rippy McGee too. The MSOS up 5%. They have MSOX. I believe that's the 2X ETF. This thing was up 10%. Both of them got flag patterns on them. Not my particular flavor, but look, if they bust loose, then, we can come in and trade a little CGC, up 14% today, something along that end, right? Maybe TRY. But, hey, Solars. Look at the base on this shoals here. Taking out the range. I think all dips and tapbacks into this trend line we want to do. But I think the main, same thing with Airy. Taking out huge amounts of range here, a year plus, nice liquidity on these things. Doing 6-10 million shares is a good sweet spot to get some action going. I think, run is probably my favorite out of the group because we have a clearly defined level. If you come in and take out the 1650, we've got ourselves the liquidity, we got ourselves the range. It also has already taken out its base, right? And so now you're kind of like, did the base breakout? Now you're about going into the first flag on this thing. I like the overall look of it. I like when you have just clearly defined levels like this. FSLR, if you look here, after that big pop, you came back into the bone zone, got a green candle to hold, and today was just a nice, very narrow range day, 4 or 5 points on something that's got a $13 ATR is pretty tight. I like that look a lot. I don't like how this stock trades compared to like a run or something along this end because it's got a big spread on it. But look, the stocks with the big spread and a little bit of lack of liquidity often are the ones that fucking can go gangbusters. In the past, we have seen, FSLR go on these huge runs where it just has a big stick out of nowhere. So, hey, what are you going to do, right? I like the overall look on this thing. And then you get a big pop on shop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 days. You got 12 days of consolidation. Can't beat that, right? You got a good location on this. I think the speed up on this is going to be if it gets over 45, 145. I think that takes it probably back to 140, 155. But I think it's there now. Like it took out the trend line, which is the first, the first aspect of it. And now you get like a nice inside day under that. I think that's where you really want to go with this bad boy. So now if we come out of this zone, we're going to be really cooking and booking. Once again, like it did dump off a little bit at the open, but, couple points, right? UWMC, this is the mortgage company. I can't get over this chart, man. This is a mortgage company. They're one of the, they compete with Rocket Mortgages. Got an awesome look on this thing. First of all, just, coming, it's cheap. It's coming out of zone. It's the right time, right place on this one. Very narrow range day here. Watch the IWM. This is like kind of your classic IWM type of stock. Whether this is in the Russell or not, I don't know. But this is like the type of stock that, you want to be in when the Russell is cooking. I like the overall look of this. Let's add that bad boy too. It's, with triggers on this. Hey, Lulu, after that big run, just farted around today. Let's see how this one opens. Once again, if it takes out, this is an inside day too. If it takes out 208, I think that triggers something. And PSKY, look, after that big run a couple days ago, you had 2 very, very narrow range days here, like 30, 40 cents. I think that to 30, 40 cents, like I think you can come in and, rip tits on this thing if it can kind of just come out of this zone right here. So it's got enough volume. It's in a nice sweet spot in that IPOs have been really cooking this year. We're into this thing, right? We're into this thing. So rest. I think I go 1660 trigger on this. Beyond that, look, my watch list is, a damn 100 names long right now. There's a lot of heat in this market. Even though it was a little bit slow today, there was a few things to trade. That's all you really need. My one worry on this before I go is, we saw Bitcoin just take a shitter, but also Ethereum did too. And I think that's that is something that to pay attention to, because this is a measure of risk, and the trend has kind of flipped on this a little bit. I wouldn't say flipped on a long-term basis, but on a short-term basis, right? It definitely has. And you could say Ethereum was down 10% today. It gapped down, popped up a little bit, and then just fizzled off all day. I didn't see what the news was or anything like that. I don't know if there was news, but that's not a good follow through. Like, if it had just if it was down on the day and it had just like a narrow range day here, I think that would have been so bullish, right? To come in and take out that 5,000 on Ethereum, but you don't want to see this kind of stuff, right? Like, that's just a nasty McGee. So just something to kind of keep in the back of your head. I don't know what's going on. It could also be just a full-blown, shake and bake. Cryptos do that all the time. So we'll be mindful of that. Something I'm watching, but this does give me pause because it is a measure of risk and speculation in the market. So I love you guys. Peace.